where does that moral relativism initiate, right? Because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
You get exposed so you growing up, the way you did, it would make sense that you have a moral flexibility. But as you've matured, you've only refined that moral integrity more and more and more after each one of the situations that you've experienced at all these different levels.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like there's a dichotomy in that. Like there's a moral flexibility, but there's also like a moral inflexibility as you learn right and wrong.
Right.
Right and wrong gets solidified as right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to be flexible in the spots that are ambiguous. Right. So like ambiguity is fine. Like adults have to deal with ambiguity. Like I think that's what discernment is. Maybe we can come back to discernment later, because at a spiritual level, you know, young men, young women, they need to be able to discern what is my path? What is God's word showing me and telling me? That's a difficult thing to wrestle with until you're too old. And now we can look back, so we have that texture and seasoning.
100%.
But that is what discernment is, the gray. Black and white becomes easier to see, but I faced a lot of adversity growing up. Like I've seen my mom arrested for wrongfully. I've wrestled with some really bad corruption and bad things that I saw, and abuses happening to us as kids and to other kids, where you become crystallized in understanding what right and wrong is. And at that point, and I imagine combat does the same to you guys in certain respects, right? You learn how to be morally flexible because there's a necessity to that.
Right.
But when you see things, and when you see certain things, you're like, okay, like you don't care what the loss is. It's like, demote me. Like, I don't care about my rank type of thing. Like there are times where what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And when you've already paid that price and watched what other people do, I suppose other people look at it differently, but I don't. And, I had a quip from a friend of mine laughing with me not too long ago. He's like, they really kind of pulled you out of hiding and made you go public with this by essentially the Barbara Streisand effect. They tried to buy you off for $100,000 to silence me with a NDA, non-disparagement, and promise never to sue them. I wasn't suing them, and I wasn't talking about it, and I was doing nothing. And instead, they woke a sleeping giant. He's like, anyways, what he quipped, he's like, this is like they should have told the National Guard not to go after Rambo.
100%.
Because
100%. Let him go.
You'll pick him up at a gas station.
Said, let him go.
You'll pick him up.
That's right.
Pumping gas.
The next town.
And everything is going to be just fine.
That's right.
But when you make these crystallized moments of right and wrong, with people who've had to suffer the back ends of what is right and what's wrong.
Well, that's the question then. I mean, that's the question, and not to pivot on the most intense philosophical question that there is other than like figuring out who am I and why am I here, but like, what is the difference between right and wrong, and how does that manifest or crystallize? I love how you use the word crystallize, to where it's discernible every day, right? For me, there was a long stretch where I didn't know what that was, and I gave myself the wide range of interpretation, right? And then after an experience I had in Afghanistan, man, that I was really in question of it, and then I'm like, well, I don't know even where to begin to generate the foundation. Now, luckily for me, I chose religion, I chose Christianity, I chose Christ, right? And so that began this 10-year-long exploration of what that looks like. Can I live up to that? Can I hold the standard of it? And then can it be iterable in my behavior day in and day out? And, through that relationship and that confidence that came out of that, and setting that cornerstone, right, I was able to get there, but it took a long time.
I was thinking about this analogy driving down here, because I know you have a military background. And to me, it tracks with learning how to shoot in the respect of, like, if you've never shot before, you go down on a range to a target, you know, you don't know how to control your breath.
Yeah.
You don't know how to control, like there are so many things you don't know. Right. So you're aiming for the mark of what's right and wrong. Like you're trying to find that, but like you don't really have that guidance.
Yeah.
And so you can figure it out by practice. I'm sure there's some self-made sharpshooters out there, and you know, you don't want to be on the back end of them in a mountain. Like they're great.
That Lucas, the guy that was the YouTube gun guy who just lost his deal with the one armament, got T-Rex arms or whatever. That guy, like, he takes a lot of crap from operators out there, but that kid can shoot, and he's self-taught, and he got better and better and better and better. And so I love the analogy.
But it's you calibrate through trial and error.
That's right. That's right.
But what I'm getting at is that's probably, it's not an effective way that you guys train people in the military from regular infantry to special forces.
There's a system.
And special operations and what you guys do. The better way to sort of speak to help guide someone to know what is right and wrong, or hit the bullseye. Right. So sticking with the analogy, is to have guidance, to have a teacher, have a mentor, have peer mentors, go through, have guidance, maybe a book, and how to shoot, how do you, you codified these principles that you've learned through your trial and error. And so it turns out when it comes to right and wrong, there's a book. A book that's been around a long time, and for a reason.